Are we live? And we're live. Welcome to another episode of Business Focus Live with me, John, where we discuss topics that help your business achieve your goals. So, if you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe. And let's get started. Hello to everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. Welcome to today's live stream. We'll be finishing our discussion on linear programming as it regards to your project. So let's begin. Where is it? There. And we're back. So good afternoon to everyone. Hope everyone's doing well, staying safe in their respective houses. So today we'll be discussing linear programming as it regards to your project, as I mentioned earlier, and discussing a little bit more on the assignment as well. So I'll giving you examples as to go about regarding the project and for your assignment as well. All right. So again, as I mentioned before, if you have any questions, hopefully you can post your questions online so I can read it later on and I'll get back to you. Okay. So hopefully by the end of this stream, everyone is clear on their task and objective. Anyway, hello to our present today. Hello, Jerome, Francis, Grant. Good afternoon. So hopefully more will be present or be watching the live stream, or maybe you could watch later on. So that's the advantage of our live stream here. So at least for those who are able to watch it today or be present, then you can watch it live. So you can post your comments real time. So for those who cannot, you can rewatch it later on and go over some of the things that was discussed today. Okay. Hello, Gail, Joshua, who else? Maria, Francis, Sabrina, Lance. Hello. Anyway, so let's talk first regarding the project itself. So for my class in Buslytics, so we'll be focusing on your project. So if you notice, we've already finished discussing regarding your linear programming topic. So you've already taken your final quiz. Hopefully everyone's already taken that. If you have any problems, do email me so I can get back to you and deal with the situation. But I'm assuming most of you have already finished and have submitted. So I'll be checking the papers later on. Hopefully I can give the feedback as early as this weekend, if not by next week. And by then, you can concentrate more on your project paper and your assignment as well. Who else? Is this Mr. Kim? The name? It's not Japanese. It's Korean. Let me copy this. Is this Mr. Kim? Hello, Juan or Diego. Trisha, hello. Mark, hello. Anyway, so as I mentioned, going back. So for the project presentation, hopefully everyone has already done their draft regarding for each of their cases, and I have already checked them. So the point of the matter is, so throughout the semester we've been discussing what's the objective of using analytics so you can make better decisions. So the key here is using the tools that you have learned throughout the semester is applying it here. So I'll be using one primary examples to prove my point. Hello, Andrew. Hello, Samantha. Oh, you're able to join us. Anyway, let's see. Let me try and go to the. Let me switch to the next one. And if you notice, I was late in going live. Had difficulty setting up the equipment here at home. Anyway, so let me switch to the next screen. There you go. Okay, so let's use this as an example. So it should be familiar to most of everyone. So here we have the objectives and constraint in a mathematical form. So the question, how do you translate that into a spreadsheet model, which will be illustrated in the table below. But let's focus first on the example above. So let's say you have a company here that produces a product or two products of that, product A or product B. So what's the objective here? So typically, if you talk about profit or revenue, you want to maximize it. So let's use that as an example. So for product A, let's use the variable A to represent product A and B to represent product B. So for every product A that you sold, you generate 5, whether it's $5 or 5 pesos. And then on the other hand, for product B, for every unit of B products you sell, you generate 10 pesos or $10. So what we'd like to find out later on is how many units do we need to sell that would maximize our profitability or profit. So the second part here is the constraint. So I just kept it simple. So obviously, depending on the cases that you're given, you will have different types in terms of number and variety as well. So constraints here are very simple. So let's say in order to produce said product A and product B, it goes to two main processes. So the first process mentioned here I used is assembly. Okay, so combining the different components to produce the final product. And for the second constraint is the packaging aspects. So before shipping, put it in the box, keep wrapping it, and so forth. And then the third constraint, as always, is the non-negativity, because you cannot produce negative units of what do you call this? Negative units of any product at that. Okay. So how did they come up with this numerical coefficient for each production process? So it was arbitrary, just to give you an example. So let's say for assembly, for product A, it takes about half an hour to produce product A. And then for assembly, it takes about 1/3 of an hour. And then if you notice, the inequality is less than equal. So it cannot exceed the allowable production hours. So let's say given a week, you have 40 hours. So meaning that's 8 hours a day for 5 days a week. So 8 times 5 is 40. So those are basic or given assumptions that are certain. Okay. So for packaging, so these are the given values I provided. So same constraints as well. You have 40 hours. So the production here is on a by week basis. So from here, we are going to translate here into a spreadsheet model. So how do we do that? So same process before, create the two components, the parameter first, and then the model part. So the parameter should look familiar. It's similar to how you created your mathematical model. So in this part, you may notice it's similar. You just created a table to better illustrate the equation. So you can see here the process here from assembly to packaging for product A and product B and the available hours. So your 3 columns. So you can see here, just copy the numerical coefficients for your left-hand side and then here for your right-hand side. So the inequality is not included, which will be included in your constraints for your model part later on. So here we have your profit per unit for product A and then for product B. Should be simple enough to everyone, right? So let's go now to the nitty-gritty details of your model aspect. So for the model, as mentioned, since your objective is to maximize profit, so you need to determine the quantities that you need to produce or how many do you produce, whether it's product A or product B, and then how much profit will you generate, right? So I leave this blank as of the moment, and then for profit, we type in the function formula, sum product. Should be familiar to everyone already by now, okay? So again, as I mentioned, when you do the sum product, you have to highlight at least 2 table arrays. So if you select 2 cells, select 2 cells also in the other table array. Otherwise, it would not work properly. Okay? So in this case, I've selected quantity here, comma, and then the profit per unit for product A and product B. Then close parenthesis. So obviously, it's 0 right now. So if I were to produce one of each unit, so you'll generate $15. Yes? Okay. Now, the key part here is based on the limitations in your model earlier. I don't know if you heard me. Anyway, so you can see here if you have exceeded the allowable hours in your production. So to do that, so create a one more table here below. So create the hours used here and then the available hours here. So it's 40 hours for each process. So for the used hours, again, we use the function formula for some product. In this case, you're selecting a very specific process. So in this case, the assembly part. So you multiply the quantity, comma, and then the process for assembly for product A and B. So in here, I did already that earlier. So if you notice, to produce 1 unit of each product, that would generate $15 or 15 pesos. Your assembly hours that is utilized is only 0.7 hour. And then for packaging, it's 0.45. So the question is, did it exceed the available hours? So you can always check. So it did not. Okay. So now we're going to ask Excel solver to solve it for us. That would give us the optimal solution. So as mentioned, so we go to the data tab, select solver. So again, we input the different values here. So from the objective, so which is your profit cell, to maximum, and then by changing the cells, this pertains to the quantity. Okay, and then the constraint. So let me delete this so I can do it over again. Oops. So once you click add, if you notice the 3 components, the left hand side, the inequality, and then the right hand side. So for the left hand side, just select the assembly use hours. So that's your first constraint, right? And then your inequality is still less than equal. And then for your constraint, on the right hand side, just select the available hours. That's it. So that's your first constraint. So for the second constraint, you do the same. In this case, you select the left hand side for packaging. Okay? For the inequality, it's the less than equal. And then for the constraint is 40 hours again. So now you have 2. So you select OK, and you're done. Okay? You double check if you've done it correctly by going back to your initial mathematical model. So how many constraints do you have here? So it says here you have 3, but you've only input only 2. So the third and final one will always be by checking the non-negativity constraint. So now you have 3, so it's all complete. So you select simplex LP and then select solve. Then voila, then it will solve it for you. So in order to maximize profit, so you need to sell or focus on selling production B, product B, which is in this case 200 units, and you'll generate a profit of 2,000. Okay? Okay, sorry, there was a mistake. It's supposed to be 1/3 for the first process. So let me redo the computation. Okay, let me rerun solver. So I did this last night, so I was checking. So again, so it's the same. So focus on producing product B, which is 120 units, and you'll generate 1,200 as your profit. Now, if you were to go over in terms of hours used, you notice that assembly did not exceed as well as packaging. But the question for your paper is this the best outcome that you can generate? So how do you go over? So I'll give you 3 scenarios here just to give you an example. So something to use as your basis in your final paper. So I've noted here beside the parameter is the number of hours, right? So you only are given 40 hours, meaning 1 week production hours. So that's 8 hours a day for 5 days a week. So what if we were to extend the hours here? So let's make it 16 hours for both production process, whether assembly or packaging. So in my case, it's automatically adjusted the available hours. So let's rerun solver. And select solve. Then it automatically again solves it for us. Now, obviously, if you add more hours, you can generate more revenue, or in this case, profit, right? But if you take a look in the hours used and the available hours, what do you notice? For assembly, you have no problem. Of the 80 available hours, you've maximized the you've utilized all of the 80 hours. But look at the second part, which is packaging. So the problem lies here. Yes, you have generated more profit, but you also have, let's solve this. How many slack that you have here? So in this case, you have 32 hours that is idling, meaning people in that production process are not doing anything. So do you simply just take it as it is? Because in the end, you still have to consider the other asset, which is the cost considerations. People are not being utilized properly. So what do you do now? Yes, let me go over. I'll check this. Oh yes, you can. What happened here? Uh, Mr. Mark was saying if I can still check. Yes, you can still send your draft paper so I can check it so you'll have time to focus on it. Just, okay. Oh, what's happening here? Right, let me see here. Are we lagging? Are we lagging here? What's going on here? Let's wait for a while. Okay, maybe it's only in my in my console. Anyway, so I was mentioned as I was saying earlier. So let's go back. Uh, where was I? So again, so in the initial model here, you've already solved for the optimal solution, which is fine, right? So the question is, how do you come up with a better model? So you have a lot of options here. You can add more hours, you can increase the price, and so forth. But the question here is, how do you justify doing those things? Now, adding more hours, it's a reasonable expectation because if you add more production hours, you can produce more. But it can only do so much, right? And if you notice here, I added 2 shifts here instead of 8-hour work day. I made it into 2. So question is, did it yield a better outcome? Yes, technically. But take a look here. Your used hours for packaging is heavily underutilized. 32 hours is not being, meaning employees are idle for 32 hours. So how do we do that? Some may say, what if we were to produce more, provide more hours? So let's make it to a 24-hour shift. So 3 shifts a day. Okay. Then let's rerun solver and click solve again. So was there any significant difference? So we started with $1,200, and by increasing the shift, obviously it multiplied to 3 folds. Now, what else can we do? If we were to think of extreme measures, what if we were to increase the days as well instead of just 5-day work week, sorry, make it to a 7-day work week. So you're given more hours to produce. So let's see what would be the outcome. Okay. So you can see here, if you were running your operations or production process for 24 hours a day for 7 days a week, this is the maximum that you can generate in terms of profit. Still focusing on product P. But the question here is this realistic? Whether your operation is manually operated or automated, can you realistically expect to operate continuously? And for how long? So maybe on a week-to-week basis, this is sustainable. But if you were to do this several weeks moving forward, something you have to consider that. Is that viable? So question, let's take a look here. So the maximum that you can generate based on the hours and the days of your production, you can clearly see here the maximum you can generate is $5,000. 5,000. So the question here is, what do we do now? So what are your options? So obviously it's unrealistic to expect your production operation to sustain itself over the course of the period. So, but 5,000 is our baseline. We want to reach that. Is there a way to reach that profit without, depleting, but exhausting your resources, so to speak, right? So I've given you already two scenarios. So what else can we do? Can we reduce the hours? Sure, let's do that. So to make it more realistic, what if we were to reduce the hours instead of three shifts? We were to make it 2 shifts. Yes. Wait. There you go. So let's make it 16 hours again. Okay. So still 7-day work week, and then click solve. Okay. Now if you notice, by reducing one shift, look at the difference here from 5,000 to 3,000. There's a 2,000 difference. Now if you add more zeros here, you can see that there's a big difference from 2,000, 200,000 to 2 million, 2 billion. You see my point? So the question is there a way still to increase production without sacrificing your profit? So what if I were to tell you there is? So doing some tickering, so simulation modeling that I did last night, so I was able to find out that what if we were to reduce the assembly hours? Okay, so obviously in the model here, it tells you that you focus on production B. So if you take a look here, assembly for product B takes 1/3 of an hour, while packaging takes 1/5. So what if we were to reduce the hours in terms of assembly? So we'll just remove one slight detail, meaning improving the process itself. So let's see what happens here. So instead of 1/3, let's make it 1/4. So we were to improve the process by a fraction of an hour. Okay. So if we were to do that, let's click solve again and see what happens. Okay. So by improving your production process, which is within the control of any company or organization, had a significant impact. So from 3,000 to almost 4,500, right? Without adding more days to your production. All right. So now it's up to you how you come up with your own solution, but you have to base it on realistic outcome. So when I read the paper, I look at your model. How did you come about? What are your premises? Not premises. What are your premise? Sorry. So what's your basis for using this? So as I mentioned, so you can play around with different values here. So you can change the hours, meaning on the right-hand side, and then the production hours for each process. You can improve it. Now, obviously, you can arbitrarily change it, but you have to be realistic also. You can simply change from 1 hour of production and then you'll reduce it to, let's say, 10 minutes. Right? That would be impossible. Now, maybe from 1 hour, you can reduce it, let's say, 5 to 10 minutes time. That's a significant reduction. Okay? And then maybe changing the price or the profit per unit. It all depends. But again, the point here is coming up with the best solution. Now, 4,500 may not be the highest profit that you can generate, but it's pretty damn close to 5,000 and beyond, right? Without violating with your current constraints. Okay? Let's go back to the main screen. Oops. Let me adjust this one. There you go. So, any questions so far? So the key to your paper is identifying first the objectives and constraints and creating the initial optimal solution. Then once you have done that, then you have to think of ways how to improve on it. So whether you maximize profit or you want to minimize cost. So that's why you have to understand first what are the parameters of your case. So that once you have understood that, then maybe how can I find ways to better improve the outcome? And this is what actual companies do. So whether you're in a production process, you're in an office, thinking of ways how to be more efficient to achieve the ultimate goal, which is make more profit by doing the little things. Okay, let's see. Now, with regards to the quiz, as I mentioned, you just have to answer what's being asked. So, I think the first two probably only ask for the mathematical model, the equation. So make sure you have read the problem carefully. That's a very simple problem to answer, right? The key part in the latter problems is doing the same process, but in the second part is creating the appropriate spreadsheet model. Now, whether you put in the appropriate labels, terms in your constraint is up to you, because if there are more than two or three, how would you know which one is which? That's why I always try to emphasize that label each item carefully. That's why in the decision variables, you label them. What is A representative of, B is representative of, and so forth, so that there's no confusion. The more variables that you include in your problem or in your model, then it gets more confusing, right? So that's the way that you can organize and simplify the process. Okay. For sige, I'll show you an example for number. Let me see if I have it here. Actually, number 5 is a very similar one. That's why, number 5 problem in the quiz is similar to the exercise I provided before regarding the rooms, the deluxe rooms, if you recall. The key here is if you've answered the exercise from 1 to 4, it gives you already a general idea of how to answer number 5. Okay, so let me see if I still have it here. Let me take a look. I can't find it. LP exercises. It's here. Okay. Drawing, cutting. Nope, not this one. Let me see. I'm trying to look it up. There it is. LP example. Anyway, after we discuss this, I'll go over how to do your assignment. As I mentioned, whether you use the first scenario using the survey as I mentioned, or you've collected other data, or you actually it's for the first two scenarios. Once you did the alternative case, that's also fine, but we'll discuss it in a bit. Where is it? Let me see. LP example. No, not this one. What the heck is it? Can't seem to find it. Anyway, can't find it. Sorry. Again, so for the constraint regarding the deluxe rooms, you just have to create the total for the row. For the row and the column component. So that once you select the sum product, you select the particular process. So for example, the rooms in type 1 and type 2 and so forth. It gets intuitive once you get used to it. But anyway, let's see if there's other more question. I can find the question. Again, for Mark, regarding your question for the constraint, again, the mathematical model pertains to the objectives and constraint. So the constraint is a key part in the problem there. That's why I only asked you for the mathematical model. I did not ask for the spreadsheet model. So that would be the basis for you answering the latter parts or the latter questions, right? Or the other items. That's why the first two problems should be a giveaway for everyone. But you have to be very careful. One small detail that you may misunderstood, like for example, the inequality is a very good example. Many of you got it incorrectly in the inequalities in the exercises that we did before. So when it says less than equal, you wrote in greater than equal, or should be equal to, then you chose a different one. So you have to be very careful, because the strange thing here is, even if you input a wrong model or spreadsheet model in Excel, it will still try to find an optimal solution, which obviously can be an incorrect one. Okay. Okay, I thought it was lagging kasi in my screen, it froze up, so I don't know what happened. So anyway, okay, so it unfroze again. Anyway, so going back to the example as I mentioned earlier, which one is it? Okay, so going back to the main problem here, as I mentioned. So what are the ways that you can generate more revenue? Okay, so actually in my case, what did I do here? Let me take a look. Huh? Ah, yeah, I was tinkering this also. You would be surprised. So here I have a, what do you call this? Here is the same scenario, but I increased the, what do you call this? I was able to improve the processes, not just for from 1/3 to 1/4, but 1/5. And you would be surprised what was the outcome. So by improving the assembly process for product B, look what happened. I was able to reach the 5,000 profit, and even reach beyond, exceed the uh, original profit, which was a little over 5,000. And in this case, it was significantly higher than that. So what does it mean? So coming up with unique ways or different ways of approaching a particular problem, you will be surprised as to what solutions you can derive upon. So your creativity can help you, see the different possibilities. So this is what I was doing last night. So if you notice, not only was I able to exceed the maximum profit in the earlier models, but take a look at the utilization of your hours. I was able to utilize all the hours that was available. So in this case, all 112 hours. Okay, so without sacrificing, continuous process indefinitely. So 2 shifts for 7 days, you're able to generate 5,600 of profit by focusing on product B. Obviously, you can add more constraints, which will make it more difficult, but it's still feasible. Or you can reduce the constraint. Is that even possible? So there are a lot of combinations, ways of coming up with the optimal solution. So the sky's the limit, so to speak. Okay. So where am I? So let's continue now with the exercise. Sorry, not the exercise. The assignment. Assignment. So let me close. Let me open. What's the? There you go. So if you did the first scenario for your assignment, whether you're using the survey from the question I provided, or you call that a collect. What do you call this? Collected data. Secondary data. Yeah, that's what I was trying to convey. Sorry. Anyway, where is it? Okay. So let me close the other window. Okay. Let me see if it shifts. Oops, sorry. There you go. Okay, so as I mentioned, once you have collected the survey, okay, so I think the first part of your survey contains the demographic profile of the respondent. Okay, so here's just a short snippet of what you would, collect. So the gender, the ethnicity, the age, the status, the educational attainment, and the generation that they belong to. So again, the assignment for my other class, for the DSLitic, this would be your final project already. So how do you analyze this? So you use descriptive analysis to give an insight. So meaning whether you use tabulating, graphing them. I would not suggest graphing them, but you could do that, or using numerical measures. But for simple purposes, you could use tabulation here, or you could use a frequency table here, or create a cross tabulation. Either would be fine. So I'll give you an example. So let me select any of the cell, then go to Insert tab, and then go to Pivot Table, then select it, then let's display it beside. Okay, then you have that. So you choose whether you want to use just one variable at a time or you use two. It's up to you. Now, obviously, the point of the matter is not just creating the frequency distribution here. The point is to do the analysis. Who are your respondents? So without going to the nitty-gritty details of who the person is, but as a whole, how can you generalize the person that responded to your survey? So like in this case, let's use gender as an example here to better illustrate. So you have gender, you have male and female. So simple enough. And then once you have created the frequency, let's try to zoom in. Okay. Oops. Okay, there you go. So here we have a total sample size of 10. Now, obviously, in your case, should be at least 30, right? So if you have 30 or more, gives you a better, more accurate picture of what the population is. Now, obviously, uh, family-owned business would be in the tens of thousands or even millions, right? But that's another problem. But our focus here is the analysis of what the data you have collected. So let's say I have here 10 sample size, which is stated here. So you can clearly see here, majority of my respondents, in my case, there are more female than male. That's it. So it gives you a better idea. Now, if you try to piece the other variables, so let me zoom out again. So let's say if I were to change gender and maybe use ethnic background, so what do I see here? Let me remove this. So ethnic background. What do we have here? So majority or all of my respondents here are all Filipino. Obviously, there are other ethnicities that resides here in our country. So, but in my case, the data that I collected, majority are Filipino, which makes sense. Why? Because where do we live? We're in the Philippines, right? So you expect majority of your respondents to be Filipino, right? But if your data supports that there are a portion that of different ethnicity, then that's it. So that's the whole point of describing your data to give you a better understanding what the data is all about. This is similarly what you will be doing in your thesis later on. So having an idea what to do now will give you a better perspective of what you will do later on. So I'll give you another example. Let's combine the two variables here, the ethnic background and your gender. So you can see here, so let's zoom in. So I've combined two variables here in terms of gender and ethnicity. So let me try to just adjust. There you go. Okay, so what can you see here? Okay, so obviously in terms of gender, regardless of gender, all of them are of Filipino, background. So it gives you a better perspective. So you can create several tables. In this case, you have how many more? So in my case, I have many more in terms of age, marital status, educational attainment, and what generation do they belong. So once you go over one by one, you can see, it gives you a better idea of who they are, what their background is. So you can make a better generalization of who your respondent is. Okay? Uh, oh, it's frozen. Okay, let's see what's the problem. Holy crap. Yeah, there's a problem with my connection. Sige, let me check the connection here. I don't know what happened here. Let me see here. Let me see if I can get back. How is it now? Can people see me better? How is it now? I don't know what happened. Why is it lagging? Can't understand. Let me see here. Okay. Okay, so you can see the Excel. That's good. But you cannot see me. It's a problem. Let me try and let me switch back. Yeah. It's the difficult part of having a live stream, having technical difficulties. Okay, please bear with me. So I'll try to fix it. There we go. Let's see. Do we get it? There you go. Can people see me now? Oh, it's doing better. Okay. Is it still frozen? Can even see in my stream if I'm still lagging. Anyway. Uh, so okay, thank you very much. Thank you for bearing with me. Anyway, so were you able to hear me during the when I froze up? When the screen froze? So what part did I discuss that before I got what part was I, what part was I discussing before the screen froze? Were you able to hear me discussing the what do you call this? Discussing the how to summarize your what do you call this? Your questionnaire. Okay. Let me see first. Okay. The audio was working. Okay, very good. Anyway, just to go over, just to illustrate, better illustrate. So at least everyone is clear. So here we have an, let me switch back. Oh, sorry. There you go. So here we have the sample of your survey. So once you have tabulated it, so from the respondents, let's say you have 10 respondents here, just a good example, as I mentioned. So you have the different variables here of your profile. Gender, ethnicity, age, and so forth. So question here is how do you make sense of it? So the key here is to use the tools that you have learned so far, how you describe your data, whether it's by tabulating graphically or using numerically. Now, typically you would utilize tabulation, especially when you're doing your thesis later on. So how do you tabulate it? So create a frequency distribution, whether the typical frequency distribution for one variable at a time, or you can use cross tabulation, meaning two variables at the same time, which will give you the same result, just to give you a different perspective. So anyway, so let me try to. So let's select any of the cells here. Go to pivot table. So let's select a new worksheet. So again, so let's choose any of the variables. So as I mentioned, so if you were to choose gender here and create the table, so you can see here that majority of your respondents are female. Now, can you speculate why there are more female than male? We don't know. But the data is telling you that majority of your respondents are female. Does it mean female are better than male? Not necessarily. We don't know. That's why you only have a general description of who your respondents are. And that's what you're trying to convey. Only describe what is being presented. Nothing more, nothing less. So you can go over one by one. So maybe, how about for ethnicity? I think we already did that earlier. So how about in terms of age? Okay. So let's select age. Okay. So let's take a look here. Okay. So what does it tell you here? Okay. So you have again 10 sample size here, and majority, is there a majority here? Yeah, somewhat you can see it. So you can see that majority here, which means the between the age of 31 to 40 is the majority of your respondent. So again, based on that age group, what does it tell you about the person? If you are in that age group, which I think I am still, or I went past that age group already by a year. Anyway, so if you're 31 to 40 of age, what do you normally associate with in terms of status? In terms of what are they doing by that age? Are they still studying, working, have a family, things of that nature? So gives you a better idea, right? So if I were to tell you majority of my respondent is below 20, automatically one would assume they're still students, right? Teenagers at that. So maybe in your data set you'll get a different insight and so forth. So that's the whole point of analyzing the data here. Okay? So that's just the first part for the demographic profile. Okay? So if you notice, the more descriptive that you can utilize, the better you should paint you a better picture who the person is. Right? So it doesn't matter individually who they are. It gives you a generalization of who the respondents are in terms of your survey. Now, the second and critical part here is the survey itself. Right? You have there were questions posted in the question in the second part. It pertains to a particular variable, which represents could be the dependent or your independent variable. Now, how you analyze it, I'll leave it up to you. But in terms of describing them, so let's assume here you have two variables here. Okay, so the first variable here, we have feedback and development, and then your second variable is measurement. Now, you may notice here, for each variable in the questionnaire that you had there, I gave, I think, at least 5, right? 5 questions per variable. So what's the point? So that you create redundancy so that when you ask the question over and over, will you get the same consistent answer from your respondent? That's the point of creating multiple questions. So that's something to keep in mind once you're doing your thesis later on. Anyway, so let's assume here, so respondent 1, so this is his or her answer. So for respondent 1, the first question that was asked regarding feedback and development, the answer was 4. Another question later on, second question, it's 4, 5, 4, 4. So you notice it varies, right? But the question is, do you just simply take 4? Do you simply take 5? No. So let's summarize it. So a way to summarize numerical data is by getting the average, right? So you select the entire row for respondent 1. So the average response for respondent 1 in regards to the first variable here is 4.2, right? So what we're interested in is not just respondent 1, but all of your respondents. So what are their averages as well? So we'll do the same, copy and paste the rest, and that's it. So what do you notice? So in terms of feedback from all your respondents, respondent 1 has 4.2, respondent 2 is 4.2 as well. But if you notice, for the rest, it varies from 3.6 to 3.4, 4.6, 2.8, and so forth. So it varies. So that's what you're trying to determine. Okay? But the question here, are you trying to identify each individual respondent or for the entire variable itself? So once you've done that, you get the overall mean or the grand mean, okay, for feedback and development or for your first variable. So we get the average of your average. Okay. So if you average all the averages from all your respondents, in this case, so for feedback and development, I could say that the average mean is 3.66. Question is, what does the 3.66 imply? So this is where you have to understand the variable itself. So what is feedback and development? So you have to understand that. So you have to do some literature, research on literature, how you define feedback and development, then describe it to you, to us, or to me. What does 3.66 mean? So it ranges from 1 to 5, right? So the higher it is, what do you mean? Better feedback and development? If it's 1, poor feedback and development. How you describe it, that's the point of you analyzing it. So if you were to do the same for measurement, so again, you get the average for respondent 1. So average. And then do the same for the rest. So let's get the grand mean. Copy this. Sorry. Then copy this. Okay, so if you notice, for the grand mean for measurement, it's slightly lower. But it's close to one another, right? It's 3.6. So what does it mean? Right? So that's the whole point of the survey here, just to give you a preview of what to expect in your thesis later on. Especially for those who in the Bustleti class who's taking their thesis right now. So if you're doing your thesis 1 now, this is what you'll be expecting once you go over thesis 2. Okay? Anyway, so to get back to the chat here. So any questions so far? Hmm. There you go. Any questions so far regarding the discussion? So again, if you are having difficulty, just to give you a heads up. So for the project, you want to keep it simple. So finding the best optimal solution, the answers would surprise you of how to go about. Sometimes it's right in front of you on how to get a better outcome. That's why you have to understand first what the scenario is, and then approach it in different perspectives. You can talk to your group mates, to your other members, and maybe get a better idea. You can talk to your parents. More people. Two heads are better than one, so to speak. Right. So anyway, so for the assignment, this is what it is. So analysis. That's all what I'm looking for. If you want to go beyond there, what does it mean? You want to follow is there a problem? Get more difficult because you have to understand first the study the study first before you can do that. But my purpose is for you to be adept in analyzing data, regardless of any data, right? So whether it's within your field or beyond your field, you will be able to analyze it well, very well at that. Okay. Let's see here. Pop out. So, any more final questions before we conclude? Yes. So I think the semester is about to be over. So today will be our last live stream. So for those who are not able to watch the stream, be here today in the stream, you can watch it later on and go over some of the details regarding for your project and your assignment. Okay. So that's the main key part. So again, going back. So hopefully everyone has taken their quiz 3. So if you have encountered any difficulty, just email me. So I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. So I'll be checking the results later this week, or this weekend, sorry, and then give the feedback by next week. Okay? So that your primary focus should be on finishing the assignment as well as the project for my Bustleti class. For the BSI Lytic, your main focus is to finish the final paper, which is the assignment. I call the assignment. Now, make sure you submit all of your requirements. So, aside from the quiz, from the final paper, also the case analysis. So whether you have, if you have finished presenting, you have submitted, then you're fine. But for those who were not able to present before the lockdown, make sure you do submit a soft copy of your final paper. Yes, Jillian, you have to, as I mentioned earlier, there are two parts in the assignment you need to submit. The Excel soft copy, like the one I showed you earlier, so that I can verify if your analysis is correct, right? So I just need to double check it, right? So you have to provide a soft copy of your tabulated data from the demographic profile to your variables themselves. So you have to show me the raw data, so to speak, and how did you analyze and what's your analysis. So that will be my basis for grading your group's work. Okay? So two soft copies. Anyway, I'll be sending an email again in the future so that you can, how will you submit it, what format are you supposed to present in terms of the email. So it will be easier for me to, to check. Okay? Anything else? And today's live stream's not cooperating with me. The connection is lagging. It froze. It's still frozen in my home screen for some reason. Anyway. Okay. Glad to be of help, Miss Jillian. Anyway, so the cases, so don't forget. So you have until May, end of April, first week of May to submit all of the requirements, right? So your case analysis, final paper, make sure to take all quizzes, right? So for those who haven't taken their quizzes, make sure to email me because it would be difficult for me to email everyone. Okay? What else? I'm just checking some of the details. Anyway, so yes. If there are orders already received, again, for your initial, regarding question posted by Mark here. So in your case, I think that's the mixed nuts, right? I think that's the product mix for the nuts, right? They have three. Again, you initially answer first what is provided in the problem. So regarding if it's demand, cost, profit, whatever the scenario is. Now, based on the initial problem, then you expand your premise. So let's say in the case, I think for this particular case, the objective is to maximize profit. I think, yes? So you have to understand first, what products are you selling, right? Now, in the examples I provided in today's example, I showed you there's a production process. Now, for other cases, you may not have a production process, right? You may be providing a service and so forth. So what are the key points, key parameters that is provided? Then you have to utilize that as your basis for creating a spreadsheet model. So what I recall in the mix, I think there are three, right? You have the regular, deluxe, and holiday mix, right? So what's the difference between the three? How do you know they're different from one another? Look at the ingredients, look at the cost, look at the pricing. You look at the prices. So what makes it different from one another? Describing your data is so critical. So that when you go about, should we focus on this product A, B, or C? Give you a basis for that one, right? So if you focus on product A, what's your basis? Now, obviously, if you focus on one product or the other, should be compelling, right? So let's say price. Price is an indicator. If product A has the highest price, it will generate you higher revenue, right? But if there are factors involved in your data, then you have to factor in those things. How about margin? How about the cost and so forth, right? Anyway, as I mentioned earlier, so what type of nuts should you prioritize? Do you need to sell all of it? And again, you're allowed to expand based on the initial. So since you're talking of nuts, are there other types of nuts that you could sell? And something like that, right? So those are just snippets of what are the possibilities. Okay. How about the other cases? Any questions? I think I like the case regarding the publishing, right? Anyone here that has that case? The publishing case is very important, very interesting at that because I think the textbook publishing pertains to the assignment of, you know, textbook production. So you have to allot a certain number of hours on the not just hours, days for a particular person. So how do you manage it? So you use linear programming to solve it for you. Yes. Okay. Yes, Miss Jacqueline. So if you chose the first option, just do the analysis like what I did today, and then, you know, submit the raw data in Excel and then the soft copy of your analysis. Okay, that's it. Uh, yeah, you need the raw data and then the analysis. Two parts. Okay, so don't forget that. Otherwise, what would I do with the raw data? Right? The whole point of this class is to be adept in analyzing data. So regardless if it's your field of expertise, you know, data is still data at the end of the day. The question is, what does it represent? Then what do you do with it? You know, that's another matter. Okay? Okay, so Mark, just send me the draft again so I can check it. Don't have the answer with me. So send me later on. Send it through mail so I can double check it so I can give you my feedback right away. Should be easy here. I think there are only a few constraints there, right? I think your mistake was in the objective, right? Yes, I think the mistake was partly in the objective. Yes, I think you included the total cost function, right? Because in the objective, right, you only include what is the profit or revenue generate for each product, right? And you added a fourth component, I think. But I have to check. So send me the email so I can double check. Okay? Miss Jacqueline, for option one, the raw data, you need to analyze it also. That's why option one, option two is similar. The difference here is if you collected the raw data already before the lockdown, then you just have to analyze them. Okay? So you still have to do the analysis. If you notice, option one, two, or three requires you to analyze data regardless. Now, how you go about collecting the data, that's why you have those three options. Okay, I hope that clarifies the matter. Anyway, so for Mark's question, I just have to check your send me the email so I can double check the result. Okay, how about other groups? Any questions? So before we conclude today's stream, how about for my other class? Any questions regarding the ASNA project? So as mentioned, so for the DSIlytics, so again, collect at least 30 sample size. Now obviously I give more extra credit for groups that can collect more data. So if you're sorry, if you're able to collect 30 more than 30 respondents, it's additional points. But the point is you just need to collect at least 30 and then do the analysis. Okay? Miss Kyla, as I mentioned, so for the assignment, you have to do the analysis. That's how you will be graded, similar to what you did in your case presentation, right? So you're given a set of data. What do you do with the data? You have to make sense of it. That's why I gave an illustration today so everyone is clear on what to do. So you have to provide two things: the Excel raw data and the analysis in Word document. So you have to send two files by the end of the semester. So you analyze it carefully, and what insights can you get? That's it, right? I didn't ask for what problem it is because that would be a thesis it would be a different subject altogether. We'll be doing thesis already. Okay. Thank you very much, also, Mark. Hopefully, I'll be hearing you from your band, huh? Anyway, ah, I think the concern is, Miss Kyla, you don't have to identify a particular problem. So, in your assignment, all you have to do is analyze it. No need to identify a problem or objective here. The point is just to analyze, see for what the data is, right? As I mentioned earlier, like for example, the gender that I used earlier. So in your data, majority are female. In my case, all of them are of Filipino ethnic background, right? That's it. So you just discuss it. You just try to elaborate what you have analyzed, and that's how I would know if you understood what I've been discussing the whole semester. And that's it. Analysis, right? That's why if you have more data, more variables, or more characteristics, then it gives you a better picture, right? That's why gender is not enough, the ethnicity is not enough, the age, then your background, uh, what type of family, what type of generation you belong to, and so forth and so forth. Actually, there's another component. I think there was a profile for the business as well. So you have different facets to describe or analyze. So what is the profile of your respondent, the individual who answered the survey, right? Then there's the other part that even if they're the individual, what about the business? What type of business do they represent, right? Are they sole proprietor, partnership, or corporation? How many employees do they have? How much revenue do they generate? And so forth and so forth. So it gives you different perspective, right? Not just the individual, but the company that they represent as a whole. And that's the whole point of the analysis. Gives you a better picture. Okay? Hopefully that gives you a better idea of what I'm expecting. No need to go to the objectives and constraint, not objectives and finding the problem. Just analyze the data. Okay? I hope that clarifies the matter. Anyway, so any more questions from the group today? Oh yes, John. Yes. So for the Analytic class, so it's the assignment is your final project. Yes. So just analyze the data. Sorry, collect the raw data in Excel and then analyze the data. Now, obviously, the more in-depth that you analyze the data, the more credit that you will get. Now, for the Analytic class, I've taught you how to test variables, right? So it's up to you how you utilize it. In particular for the Analytic, so in your case, you need to do more analysis. So you can test those variables if you notice, especially for regression, you could do that. Test the relationship. So you have to identify which variables is your independent variable, which variable is your dependent variable, and find test if there are any relationship. You can do correlation. There are several things you could do to analyze your data. Okay? Let's see questions. Do we still have finals? Is this for the DSI? As far as I'm concerned, there will be no more finals exam for the DSI Lit class. That's why your final paper is crucial. That will replace your finals exam. Okay? So not just describing the data, but you can use hypothesis testing. Right? So whether you use t-test, z-test, f-test, or chi-square test. So for the dysalytics, so please take note of that. So if you're conscious of getting a better high grade, so since there's no more finals exam, your final project or final assignment, so to speak, is critical. Okay. What else? For Boslitic, there's no finals, right? Your final exam is your final paper. You were supposed to present unless you want to present your project still. Okay? No, just kidding. So for the Boslitic class, there's no more finals exam. There was no finals exam to begin with. It was supposed to be just a final presentation. Your project, your case that I sent to you at the start of the semester. Okay? So rather than present, you just have to submit the paper. That's why it's so critical that the paper in the final paper is a very significant in terms of content and analysis. So creating the different models that I showed you earlier today will be a good example, a good template. Now, obviously, the cases that I provide to different groups covers a variety of different industries or companies, right? So whether you're a manufacturing firm or a investment firm or even a service-oriented business, the point here is what's the main objective? What are the constraints? How do you come up with an optimal solution? So coming up with the best model is the key, right? If you're just able to answer the first part, find the optimal solution, you will pass, get a 70. But the question is that your objective? Given the opportunity that you can get a 1, no, not a 1, a 4, okay? Won't it be nice to take advantage of that? Finding ways to get to that point, and that will cover your finals, cover your, that will be your final project already. So the submission of your paper. Uh, you're welcome, John. Let's see. Uh, no, the project paper is your final project paper. The project that you were supposed to present at the end of the semester is your final paper already. Right? That's what I required at the start of the semester is for the final project, you're supposed to present and submit a final paper. So in this case, due to the circumstances that we're encountering, you know, so submission of the final paper is the will be the final requirement. No need to present. Unless you want to present, Mr. Mark. Don't thank me, Jerome. There was no finals to begin with. There was supposed to be final presentation only. Now, unless you want to do final presentation, as suggested by Jerome, I can still do that. I can accommodate people. Okay, how about the others? Others here? Any more questions? So hope everyone's doing well, right? Hope everyone was able to submit the quiz today, right? Oops, got lost. Whoops. I got lost there for a while. Anyway. Huh? Okay, no, walang presentation. I knew you would say that. No, I was just kidding. Yes. Yes, that's correct, Mark. So in the assignment, you choose any of the three options, so which is easiest for you. So my suggestion, if you haven't started collecting data, just do the secondary data, okay? Or you can do the case study if you're already familiar on answering the case study, and that's it, right? So don't worry too much about it. Just do what is most convenient to you and to your group, okay? The point here is you submit the requirement so that you will have a final grade by the end of the semester, right? And take note, assignment here is a portion of your final grade. The key part is your final project or final paper. So always know what to prioritize. Okay, which portion of your grade has the biggest weight, because that will have an impact in your final grade. Okay. The alternative case I already sent it. I think it's about the Northwest airline case. Yeah, I already sent it before. You can check your email again. So it pertains to, again, same as how you would answer your case analysis, right? So during the term, each group were able to present at least one case, right? So follow the format. What's the problem? What's the objective? What's the methodology? Provide alternative course of action, and what's your recommendation? So it's up to you. You have options here. That's why I gave the options in the first place, so that at least there's flexibility and everyone is given an option to choose which is their preferred method, preferred option. Okay. I hope that clarifies the matter. So, any more last minute questions? So now's the time to ask. So weekend's coming up. So at least come next week, you can focus more on finishing all your requirements, not just in my class, but in your other classes as well. By the way, how are you dealing with your other classes? Are you able to meet all the requirements? I know these are difficult times. That's why I try to be more flexible, as the school was suggesting that we have to take into account the difficulties that we're surrounding, right? So at least we are able to finish our class on time. I won't say on time, but you know, in the earliest possible time and meeting all the requirements, so to speak. So you just have to make minor adjustments. Okay? So let's see here. Anyway, thank you for uh, coming in. By the way, I got good news. So I do hope after this semester you still continue to support this channel. I'll be I'm planning to upload more videos, not just the current content that I've been producing, but I'll be adding another segment. It's called Quick Biz. It's a short video regarding news about businesses. Hopefully you can check it out. I'll be posting one video by next week. So I hope you get your support still after the semester. Anyway, I think that's about it. So you've now reached the end of the live stream. So don't forget to leave a comment down below and hit the like button. So for more live stream videos, you can check out my other videos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe. Okay, bye. Again, for any last questions, you can still send me through mail. Okay. Bye, everyone. Where's the button? Here you go. Bye, Jerome, Mark, Denise, Lance, Grant, Andrew, Joshua, Jillian, and Elia. Jesse, stay safe also.